My best friend smiled while she destroyed my reputation. So I smiled wider when I destroyed hers. They believed her lies. They laughed behind my back. They watched me shrink into silence like I was the villain of my own life. But secrets have a nasty habit of crawling back into the light. And what she did at that party? Well, it cost her everything. My name is Ava Morrison. I'm 22 now, but this story happened when I was 17, back when I still thought loyalty meant silence. Back when I believed your best friend could never become your worst enemy. I never set out for revenge. All I wanted was the truth. But once I held it in my hands, raw and undeniable, I realized something. There are moments in life where silence protects you, and moments where it destroys you. I chose to speak, and everything changed. We met in 8th grade. Two awkward kids bonding over thrift shop hoodies and horror movies that gave us nightmares we never admitted. Her name was Jules Carter. Loud, wild, magnetic. Where I was quiet and observant, Jules lit up every room like she belonged in a movie. She called me her person, and I believed her. Sleepovers turned into traditions, matching Halloween costumes, inside jokes, little promises written in glitter pen, like forever friends and nobody comes between us. But Jules didn't just make you feel special. She made sure you needed her to feel special. She had a way of keeping people orbiting her, close enough to admire, never close enough to outshine. By high school, she had her kingdom: cheerleading squad captain, class president, social media goddess, every photo polished, every laugh loud and echoing. And me? I was still Ava, the quiet one, her shadow. And for a while, I didn't mind. She was my person, right? But small cracks started showing. She began teasing me in public. Little jabs, always with a smile. Don't mind Ava, she lives in books. Ava's allergic to socializing. Ava's like furniture, always there. People laughed, and I laughed too until one day it wasn't funny anymore. It was at a bonfire, music, lights, the smell of toasted marshmallows. Someone handed me a soda and I sat beside Jules. She didn't even look at me. Didn't move her bag to make space. Then I heard her whisper to someone behind me. Ava's harmless. She won't say anything. She never does. That hit deeper than anything else. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. I had been silent, too loyal, too trusting. And Jules? She knew it. The switch didn't happen overnight. It crept in slowly, like a fog settling over everything I thought was solid. First came the silence. Jules, the girl who used to spam my phone with voice notes and memes, now took hours to respond. Sometimes, days. When I asked if something was wrong, she brushed it off. I've just been slammed with school stuff. But the truth? She was just done with me. Next came the isolation. One morning, I walked into the cafeteria and saw our usual table, our group of girls, the ones I'd eaten lunch with since freshman year. They didn't look up. Jules didn't move her bag to make space, didn't even flinch when I stood there, tray in hand. She tilted her head and said casually, "I think there's more room over there." That's how I ended up sitting alone. Then came the whispers. Fake rumors started swirling that I had stolen money from a school fundraiser. I found my locker vandalized with a message that read, "Try harder, ghost girl." The handwriting was hers. I knew it, and still, I said nothing. But the moment that finally broke me wasn't the rumors, wasn't the silence. It was what she said when I finally asked her if she believed me. "Look," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear. "You've been acting kinda sketchy lately. People are just reacting." That's when I realized she wasn't just allowing the damage, she was directing it. And the worst part? Somewhere in me, I still hoped she'd turn around and say, "I'm sorry." But instead, she posted a group photo of our old circle without me, captioned, "No dead weight, just soulmates." That's when I stopped waiting for an apology, because this wasn't just a falling out. This was intentional. This was war. It was the end-of-year party, One of those wild movie scene nights at Tyler Green's house, the kind that people whisper about for weeks. The invite list was exclusive, and yet, Jules made sure I got one. A final insult? A trap? I didn't know. I almost stayed home. Why walk into a room full of people who had erased me? But something deep in my gut, the part of me she hadn't broken, told me to go. Not to be seen, but to see. So I showed up. Plain black dress, no makeup, just me. Just Ava. As I walked in, laughter paused. Heads turned. A few girls smirked behind red cups, but I didn't flinch. I didn't cower. I just drifted toward the wall and watched the show unfold. And that's when I saw her, Jules, spinning in the center of attention like a well-rehearsed performance. Hair perfect, smile polished, pretending to be untouchable. But as I watched, I noticed something different. She looked desperate, like she was performing joy instead of feeling it. Then it happened. Jules disappeared upstairs with Corey, the JV assistant basketball coach, a guy well past college age, a guy who had no business being alone with a student. I saw her pull him by the hand, giggling as if the rules didn't apply to her. They were gone for 10 minutes, and when they came back down, rumpled, red-faced, and slightly off balance, no one seemed to notice, except me and the phone. Someone had left a live stream running on a nearby table. Lexi's phone, unlocked, propped up, streaming to a private Snapchat group, and in the background of the feed, the hallway, the stairs, Jules, Corey. The kiss? I stared at the screen, my heart thudding in my ears. I knew what I was seeing. I knew what it meant. And I knew this wasn't a moment to walk away from. This was the moment everything shifted. I didn't post the video that night, not because I was scared, but because I needed to be sure. I re-watched it over and over, paused it, studied every frame. Jules, Corey, the kiss, the way she straightened her shirt as they came down the stairs. It was her, no question. And I wasn't mad. I wasn't bitter. I was steady. Because now I had something she didn't. The truth. I saved the clip onto a flash drive, tucked it into the back of my desk drawer. I told myself I'd never use it, unless she gave me a reason. That reason came on Monday. Someone had stuffed fake notes into my locker, filthy lies, pretending I'd hooked up behind the gym. Gross. Graphic. A different version had even been taped to the girls' bathroom mirror. And Jules? She posted a selfie that morning with the caption, "Some girls will do anything for attention." That's when the switch flipped inside me. She had erased me, humiliated me, framed me, and now she wanted to finish me. So I made a decision. No rage, no tantrum, just action. I created a private Instagram account, no name, no profile picture, just a single video upload, the hallway clip, no edits, no text. I didn't tag anyone, didn't point fingers, but I didn't have to. By lunch, it had been reposted in every group chat. Screenshots, voice notes, comments exploding. By last period, the school board had been alerted. Corey was pulled out of class. Jules, gone. She didn't show up to school the next day, or the day after that. And for the first time in months, I walked through the hallways, and people moved for me. Not out of fear, but because they finally saw who was telling the truth. It's strange how fast the world turns when you're no longer its favorite target. By Monday afternoon, the silence around Jules was louder than any gossip she ever spread. Her name wasn't spoken. It was whispered. People asked, "Did you see it? Is it real? Who posted it?" But no one could answer. Because I didn't leave fingerprints. I left the truth. I didn't walk differently. I didn't gloat. But the tension in the air had shifted. The same people who used to avoid eye contact with me were now making space in the hallway. Not because I was popular, but because I had become undeniable. And Jules? She stayed gone for a week. Rumors swirled that her parents pulled her from school. that she was in therapy, that Corey had been fired on the spot because apparently this wasn't his first mistake, just his first recorded one. For the first time, Jules couldn't rewrite the narrative. She couldn't spin the truth into glitter. She couldn't point at me and laugh. She had nothing. And I had peace. One afternoon, I passed by two girls from our old group. They were talking just loud enough. "She was always tearing people down," one said. "Especially Ava, like, obsessively." I kept walking, didn't even blink, because there was nothing left to say. I didn't need their apologies. Their guilt wasn't my job to manage. The only closure I wanted was silence, and Jules finally gave me that. People think revenge is this loud, fiery thing. Screaming, slamming doors, public takedowns, explosions. But sometimes, revenge is silence. Revenge is simply not defending the person who destroyed you. Jules came back to school a week later, but she wasn't Jules anymore. Not the queen bee, not the girl with a posse and a camera-ready laugh. She was pale, quiet, alone. No crowd waiting by her locker. No boys trailing behind. Just her, moving through the halls like a shadow of the storm she once was. She passed me once, in the hallway outside the library. Our eyes met. And in that split second, I thought maybe she'd say something. Maybe I'd finally hear her say, "I was wrong." But she didn't. She lowered her gaze, kept walking. And that silence, it said everything. She knew it was me. And I knew she knew, but there were no threats, no drama, because she had nothing left to throw. And I had already let go. Over the next few weeks, the whispers died down. People moved on to new gossip, new parties, new posts, but something inside me stayed sharp, not bitter, not angry, just aware. I'd learned something Jules never could. That real power isn't in attention. It isn't in being the loudest voice in the room. It's in knowing who you are, when no one else is clapping. And when the dust finally settled, I stood taller in the quiet than she ever did in the spotlight. Weeks passed. No more rumors. No more late-night tears into my pillow. The story faded, just like all high school scandals eventually do. But the way I walked changed. The way I held my head up, unchanged by whispers, changed. One afternoon, I ducked into the library to return a book. It was the same book Jules and I used to read together during study hall, some cheesy romance we both secretly loved. When I opened it, a folded note slipped out. Plain, unmarked. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity has a voice that's hard to ignore. Inside, it said, "I don't hate you. I envy you. You were always real, and I didn't know how to be." J. No name, no apology. But I knew who it was from. Her handwriting hadn't changed. And for a moment, my chest ached. Not in anger, not in sadness. Just the ache of realizing how much pretending some people live behind. I didn't reply. Didn't take a photo. Didn't show it to anyone. I just slid the note back into the book and left it on the shelf. Because closure doesn't always come with a grand moment. Sometimes it's just knowing you don't need the apology anymore. That was the day I stopped looking backward and started choosing peace over proof. She had already lost everything she tried to protect. And me? I had finally reclaimed everything she tried to take. It's been 5 years since that party. 5 years since I stood in a dark hallway, holding the truth in my hands like a match. 5 years since I chose to strike it. I've graduated, moved to another city, built a quieter life. One not measured in likes or parties or how many people want to be seen with me. A life where I don't need someone to claim me as their person to feel whole. I don't follow Jules anymore. But once in a while, her name pops up in old group photos people reshare. New hair, new college, some other version of herself. A mask, maybe. Or maybe a girl finally trying to become real. We haven't spoken since. And I'm okay with that. Because the truth is, I don't hate her. I don't need to. Hate keeps you chained to a moment. And I've outgrown the prison she built for me. I don't need revenge to feel like I've won. I just needed to survive her. And I did. Jules may have written the first version of my story, but I got to write the ending. And I wrote it in peace. Sometimes, people will turn you into the villain, just to avoid facing their own reflection. That's what Jules did to me. She used her charm like a shield, her popularity like a sword. And for a while, she won. She made me doubt my worth. She made me question my voice. She made me believe that silence was the only safe place to exist. But the truth? Silence can be deadly. Because when it finally breaks, it doesn't have to roar. It only has to whisper. And if that whisper is the truth, everyone will hear it. I didn't destroy Jules. I simply stopped protecting her lies. She collapsed under the weight of her own performance. And I rose quietly, steady, whole. So if you've ever been lied about, betrayed, erased, if someone once made you feel like your silence was a cage, let me tell you something. You don't have to scream to be heard. You just have to know who you are. And wait, because the truth, it always arrives. Usually, right on time. If this story moved you, or reminded you of someone from your past, share it. Let it reach someone who needs to know they're not alone. Have you ever had your own Jules? Tell me in the comments. I'll be there, reading. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories of quiet strength, healing, and truth. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge is peace. Until next time, stay strong and stay true.